don't know if it's a lump of coal that lawmakers got in their stocking this week, but it's something. It's a surprise. The governor says you guys are coming back on the 18th, a week before Christmas. What do you think?
Well, I think that it's our duty to pass a constitutional budget, and last year in May we had that opportunity, and we took a swing and a miss. This is the reason that we were back in special session the first time. It's because we had a $215 million deficit that was taken out by the Supreme Court on overruling the tobacco fee. We didn't do our job in the first special session because we didn't pass a balanced budget. We sent a bunch of cuts to the governor. She told us that she wouldn't accept cuts. She told us that she would veto those, and she did. And here we are again, starting a second special session. The importance now is to make sure that we get the recurring revenue that we need to fund government.
Okay, we're going to get to the legislative viewpoint in depth here in just a moment, but Representative Kannady, what would the governor be thinking by calling the special session on the 18th?
Well, it's the old Wendy's commercial, where's the beef, where's the plan? We're going back in a special session without a plan. We did this before, it didn't work. I agree, we have to fix the problem. I will say the governor did say she would sign the bill as long as there weren't excessive cuts. And she agreed to the bill the way it was, and she didn't fulfill her promise whenever she vetoed the bill. She technically didn't veto the entire bill, but she vetoed 90% of it and kept certain things in place. So we have to go back in and fix it, but we really need a plan before we go back in on the 18th, and we just don't have it right now.
Okay, so the spirit of Buddy the Elf is not present right now. It is something that, well, when I look at what the speaker had to say, right, the speaker was unhappy and said, basically, this is the governor's fault. We're in the position we're in.
Right. I mean, he said very specifically the governor went against her word, and I think that's clearly what happened. We had an agreement with the governor to go forward. Yes, we still have problems. Yes, we have things we need to fix, but that was a way to fix the situation now, get us back in the general session in February where we make long-term solutions and move forward as a state. Right now, we're still in flux, and as the year goes forward, the situation gets worse because all of these agencies are without a budget, and once we do go in and make the cuts or whatever we're going to do, it's really going to affect the way that they do budgeting across the board. Okay,
do you remember the scene when Cousin Eddie shows up at the Griswold's house? And that's sort of how the speaker reacted. How does the Democrat minority in the Senate and the House, what do y'all think about this that's going on between them and the governor?
Well, I think what's most important is you viewers this morning, you're not really concerned whether or not Republicans or Democrats have caused this problem or have created more of a problem during special session. What you're frustrated with right now is that your government doesn't work for you. So the fact of the matter is that the legislature creates a budget. The legislature is the one who's supposed to balance that budget. It's our constitutional duty to do so, and we haven't done that right now. So right now, the legislature is the problem. If we send a balanced budget to the governor, one that brings recurring revenue. I mean, I said this week that all I want for Christmas is some recurring revenue and enough money to fund core services. So,
yeah, and nothing speaks Christmas time like Charles Dickens and Joe Albaugh. And so when you think about that, are there no prisons? I think about what happened this week, where the DOC director came in, shut down a halfway house. Apparently people were coming and going like a Holiday Inn down there. And then just a couple of weeks earlier, he asked for a tripling of his budget. What's going on in prisons as we get to the end of the year?
Well, we've talked about this a lot on this show. You look to a state to our south like Texas. Texas is building more schools and closing more prisons. You look at a state like Oklahoma, and our director of DOC is asking for money to build more prisons because ours are full. And instead of spending money on things like education and infrastructure, we're spending money on continuing to lock people up that we're mad at. This is the time for us to get serious about criminal justice reform. We have so much there that we can do to make people's lives better and use that money in a better way, use it on the core services of government that help us grow and not hold us back.
So playing the part of Jacob Marley is Joe Albaugh, and he is saying we've got to have more money, and he shuts this deal down. His viewpoint is something people are listening to. How does the majority feel about what Mr. Albaugh is saying?
Well, look, I understand the issues with Department of Corrections. I will say the situation that happened in the halfway house had to do really with oversight and leadership, because that was a contractor that wasn't state employees, was handling a situation, and the ball was dropped. So that has less to do with the budget, more to do with leadership and going forward. But we have an issue moving forward and trying to fix our prison system. Now, Mr. Albaugh did request 3 times his budget. And that's a problem. Even in a times when we have money, it's really unrealistic. So we need a plan, we need a solution moving forward to fix the problem. And I hope that the passage of State Question 780 does help with the criminal justice problem. Well, the jury's still out on that.
The jury is still out on that. That's going to be a big issue during the upcoming session. All right, lastly, one of the outcroppings from the governor's executive orders was to take a look at the consolidation of schools, higher ed and common ed. Some regional colleges this week started making moves towards consolidating. We're not going to be administration. We're not going to be getting into the weeds on that. But is this train starting to pick up speed?
Well, you know, the task force created by higher education was started in March to look at efficiencies in higher education, and I think they're doing a good job of it. Higher education gets blamed for a lot of issues with the budget, but they're doing their part to look to see how they can save money going forward. Same thing in common education. My superintendent actually gave a stipend because he saved money through cost efficiencies this last year in a very tough budget year. So I think it's worthwhile to look at it. I don't know where it goes. I think the rural versus urban argument on consolidation when you get in the common ed system is a tough nut to crack.
Your thoughts on the consolidation of higher ed administration?
Yeah, I think that it's always important for us to take a look at our agencies, make sure that we are being as efficient as possible. I think higher ed has been doing this year after year after year. What we do know is that higher ed has been cut at a greater proportion than any other of our institutions over the last few years, and continue to take massive cuts, which is increasing tuition and making it difficult for many of our regional colleges and universities. Higher ed is a critically important thing for us. It's a pipeline to jobs. We need to make sure that no matter what we're doing with higher ed, that we're spending the money effectively and efficiently so that we can make sure that our families have colleges to send their kids to.
Okay, we settled nothing today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll be back next week. See this again at news9.com/yourvotecounts.